Hello and welcome everybody. This is Dr. Basit Qureshi, and today we're going to have a tutorial on how to use while loops in Alice. So I have Alice open in front of me, and I'm going to create a new project for the grassland. So let's go ahead with this. Now on the setup scene, I'm going to put two objects over here. So I'm going to select a tree that I'm going to put over here. This is a new pale laurel tree. Okay. And the second object I'm going to put is a shape. So we're going to create a disk over here, and we're going to put the disk right under the tree. So the color of this disk, I'm going to select that to be blue because I want to use this disk as water bath under the tree. Now the radius, I'm going to set that to about 5. So since 5 is not available in the drop down list over here, I'm going to type it using the custom decimal number. Okay, so there you go. So we're assuming that this is the water bath, and every once in a while the water is going to decrease because the tree is going to suck on it and the tree is going to grow bigger. So now I'm going to move the camera a little bit away so everybody can see what would happen with the water and the tree. Now once we have both of these objects in place, I'll go to edit my code. Let's first save the project so we don't lose anything over here, and I'm going to simply call this thing using while1. Now the idea is that we want to decrease the size of the water disk, and we want to increase the size of the tree at the same time. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to work with this disk. So selecting it from here, I want to decrease the size of this disk. Now remember, previously we've studied the procedures and the functions. So I'm going to use a procedure to set its width. So I'm going to drag and put it over here, and I'm just going to give it a value for now. Of course, we're going to change this a little bit later. So the set width is going to change the value and the width of the disk, giving it the impression that it's getting smaller. So let's very quickly look at it and see what happens. If you remember, previously we defined the size of this to be 5. The radius was 5. So what happens if I change it to 2? Let's run it and see. Here you go. You just saw that it shrunk down. Alright, so what we're going to do is we want to change it by just a little bit. I don't want it to shrink all of a sudden. So I'm going to go to disk functions, and I want to get the current width of the disk. So, and then what I want to do is I want to add to it. I want to decrease 1 from it, so the size will shrink slowly and not all of a sudden down to almost nothing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to define a value over here. So I'm going to work with this number, set width. I'm going to provide a math function, which is going to be subtraction because I want to reduce the disk size by some number. So for now, I'm just going to give it a value. Remember, this is selecting minus, so I'm going to go and give it 1. Now this doesn't make any sense. So what I'm going to do is I want to grab the function holder, get width, and you can see there's 2 places that you can put it. So I'm going to put it on the left side. Now what this means is change the width of this disk by how much? By first get me the current width, which is whatever. Currently we set that to 5, and subtract 1 from it. So now the new size of the width of this disk is going to be 5 minus 1, which is 4. So let's see the effect of this when I run the animation. There you go. So you saw that it shrunk just a little bit. Now let's go ahead and repeat the same thing with the tree. But on the tree, we're going to do an opposite thing. We're going to make it grow. So whenever the water shrinks, the tree grows a little bit. So let's go to this dot tree. And we're going to repeat the same process. But previously we worked with set width. Now we're going to work with procedures and set height. Here is height. So I'm going to drag and put this over here. Again, I'm just going to give it a fake value. Now if I just go ahead with this, look what happens. The tree is going to shrink down. Well, this is not what we want. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to provide a value because you want to increase the height, so I'm going to use plus. And I'm going to just give it a value right now, which of course I'm going to change it a little bit. So what we're saying right now is change its height to 1 plus 1. Well, that's not what you want. We want to get the current height of the tree and then add 1 to it. So let's see, how do you get the current value? So we use functions. And we're going to find the get height, which is here. So I'm going to drag and put it over here. So now you can see, set the height of this tree to, first get me the current height plus 1. So now let's see what happens. There you go. So the disk shrunk by 1, the size of the disk shrunk by 1, and the size of the tree grew by 1. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to repeat this thing until all the water goes away. So how to do this thing? Now one way to do is we keep repeating all of that. Let's say I put this in order, or let's say do together control. I'll drag and drop this over here. There you go. And I can repeat this a few times. So copy paste. Copy paste. There you go. Runs 2 or 3 times and then it stops. It's not really a good idea. The water did not finish yet. And what if we define the water to be very large? So I have to copy so many different number of times. So this is not really a very practical way. Essentially what we're doing over here is we're repeating what we just did previously. So repeat, 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 and we have to keep doing this thing until all the water just goes away. So like I said, it's not a good idea. We have a solution for this, which is using a while control. So first I'm going to get rid of this. There you go. Now I'm going to drag and drop a while control over here. And we're just going to give it a true value. Now, whatever we put inside the while control is going to repeat until this condition becomes true. This is what we're telling Alice right now. So while this condition, whatever the condition over here is true, keep repeating this thing. Whenever the condition becomes false, stop the loop. So I'm going to provide a value over here. What we want to do is we want to check, hey, what's the size of the disk? Since we keep shrinking it, if the size becomes, or if the size, as long as the size is bigger than 1, we keep doing this thing. When the size becomes less than 1, we stop. So again, we have to go over here. We can go to whole numbers. And since we want to say as long as the current size is bigger than something, so we can go and pick this value. Now here I'm going to drag the current size or the current width of the disk. So get width of the disk. Functions and get width. I want to put this over here, but as you can see, I cannot do that. There's a reason for it. And the reason is that we selected the whole number. And the problem is the size or the width that we're going to get is not a whole number. It always gives in decimal numbers. So because these two do not match, for that reason, it's not allowing me to put this over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly undo, and I'm going to go back over here, select the decimal numbers, and now I'm going to do exactly what I did before. There you go. And now you can see if you drag it, it will go over there. See, the placeholder is available. I can simply go and drag it over here. So now essentially what we're just saying is, as long as the disk is bigger than 1, keep growing the tree. Okay, as soon as it becomes, okay, there you go. So it just vanished and the tree stopped growing. Okay, so this here is a tutorial on how to use while loops, and we saw this thing in first hand, how to work with the condition inside while loop, and whatever you put inside while loop would be repeated as long as the condition is true. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.